Arlene Hunter. I'm the Director of Development Services for the City of Bonita Springs. And this is our second public workshop as part of our evaluation and appraisal report for the city's comprehensive plan. As we stated before, we have contracted with Florida Gulf Coast University, and Dr. Margaret Banyan is here to facilitate this evening. As we begin, we probably will have some council members who come in as well, and they'll introduce themselves to you. But if my LPA board members, my local planning agency members, could just raise your hands so the audience can see them. These are the folks who will also be continually reviewing this process as well, and they will be voting and making recommendations to the city council through the process as well. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Banyan.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. We have a tight space, so I hear that a new library may be on its way, so that'll be nice, right? So what we hope is that if you need to sit, please feel free to sit. If you don't need to sit, then if there's kind of some limited seating, give it up to somebody else that looks like they might need it. But we really do hope to have you moving around tonight, so use the chairs in the middle as kind of a resting spot if you need to. So the plan for tonight is I'm going to do a very brief presentation, and then we've got questions along the side of the room, and some of you may have picked up some sticky notes. We're going to want you to use those sticky notes to give us comments, and there's plenty back there. So that's kind of the plan for tonight. I want to get started with the presentation, and I already talked to you about the agenda, but that's what we'll be doing. If you haven't signed in, please make sure that you do, and we'll get going. All right, so this presentation is very similar to what we did at the first public meeting. So if you were at the first public meeting or also at the LPA meeting, this is going to be a little bit of a review for you. So the EAR, Evaluation and Appraisal Report, is required by the state of Florida. And what the state asks cities and counties to do is look at the comprehensive plan and do a couple things. One, look to see what's changed in the city in terms of trends, annexations. We know you've had some annexations, that sort of thing. What's changed in the city that needs to be reflected in the comprehensive plan, and more specifically for the state's needs, what's changed at the state level that needs to be reflected in your comprehensive plan. So that also includes reviewing the goals that the previous comp plan kind of laid out for the city, to review whether those have been met and the extent to that those have been met, and then any recommendations that will be providing any recommendations for changing the comprehensive plan. I want to also kind of go through a little bit more. Our process is to identify major issues, to look to see kind of what the city's done, what's changed, what are the major issues that have arisen now that are different from when the previous EAR was developed. Update or evaluate the vision that you have. Assess shortcomings of the current comprehensive plan, opportunities that have arisen, and respond to changing conditions and trends, and then again look at state requirements. I want to emphasize that this process does not change the comprehensive plan. So any recommendations we make are simply recommendations to the council. So we're not providing amendments, we're not making any changes. So we've provided kind of this broad outline here for you to see. We're in step one, and that's evaluation of the comprehensive plan. And this step one is due April 2016. It may be that later the city engages into step two, which would the actual amendment process be. So that's not something that we're doing, that's not something that we're doing now. So again, just want to emphasize, we're in step one, and that step one is due April 2016. There's quite a bit of data to collect and quite a bit of public input to go through, so it does take some time to kind of get through the process. And then step three, of course, is if you do end up changing the comprehensive plan, then that would be reflected in the land development regulations. So that's many years from now. I'll take a couple questions at the end. Can you hang on, Rick?
I was going to say, is there, Any changes has to go to the state for approval?
The state does, they look at the EAR and they look at the amendments to the comprehensive plan,
If there are any.
if there are any, correct. All right, so your comprehensive plan has these elements. So some of the elements are required by the state, but these are the elements we're gonna be looking into. So you'll notice there's things like intergovernmental coordination, there's things that have to do with public participation, public schools. And so what we're looking at is the entire, evaluating the whole plan. And we're gonna do that through a framework. And that framework is, I'll turn to it in a second. Tonight, we're just gonna be talking to you about sort of questions about this framework. Okay? All right, here's the framework. So the 2014 Council adopted 4 strategic priorities. And these were quality of life, revitalizing downtown, strengthening infrastructure, and economic development. We're using those issues kind of as a lens that we're gonna be looking at your comprehensive plan through. It's not to say that other things won't come up, because other things will. So tonight what we have around the room is questions that sort of use that lens to get your feedback. Okay. One more thing before, just so that you know, part of our analysis is to look at population and population growth. We use the Bieber estimates and the Schimberg Center for Housing Studies estimates to look at what they're predicting in terms of population growth. Now, this is permanent population, it's not seasonal, and what they're seeing is that by 2040, you'll have around 67,545. That's their estimate. They also do it in terms of age groups. So it also appears that the fastest growing population is people who are over 75. Their estimate for the current population now is 47,000. So that's about 20,000 more people in the city. Bieber and Schimberg are kind of the gold standard for population estimates. How accurate they are over time, you know, is kind of up to kind of the estimates and the growth population. But that's what we have to rely on. They're the experts out there, so that's what we use. All right, so quality of life, I want to turn to that and just talk a little bit about what we're meaning by quality of life. What we're looking into is looking how strong your neighborhoods are, what do your communities look like, how you use your land, what's your resilience for the city, what does a green city mean to you, environmental issues, and then housing issues. So when we go to the quality of life section in the room, think about those things. Also think about what that's going to mean for people who are aging. And also think about what that means for new people moving into the city. All right, the second kind of big strategic priority was revitalizing downtown. What are your priorities for development in downtown? What are you seeing in terms of mixed use and housing? What are you seeing in terms of density downtown? How do you view that? What does that look like for you? All right, so strengthening the infrastructure. Think about, what does transportation look like in the future? What does that look like for older people or younger people? What are the park and recreation needs? What is emergency evacuation in schools? What are the needs that you're going to be seeing in 2040 for that? And then finally, economic development. So the last strategic priority was economic development. What are you looking at in terms of land use? How do you see your corridors developing? What kind of employment do you see for the city? And then what do your corridors look like? So just an overview, we've done one public meeting on September 17th. We're doing this one October 6th, today. And then we'll be doing another one in January 13th. And we'll be actually have a little bit more data in January to be able to show you. Right now, as you came in, you had a copy of the online survey. We're asking people to take that survey once. So if you've already taken it online, you don't need to fill it out in the paper copy. But we did want to have paper copies available if that was something that where you wanted to fill that out. If you want to take your time and fill it out, that's okay too. My cards are in the back, and I have my fax number and my mailing address. So if that's something you want to mail back or fax back, that's fine. So it's up to you how you want to do that. And it is available online as well. It will close at the end of November. It's set to automatically close. So all of the information will be analyzed after that point. So we're not going to be doing analysis before that point. We're waiting until November. And then that's it for now. So over here, where is quality of life? Oh, the very back wall is quality of life. And there's 4 quality of life questions. There's big posters that you can place your sticky notes on. And what we want you to do is kind of look at the questions, respond to the questions, write it on a sticky note. We have extra big pieces of paper. So by the end of the night, we hope that all of those are full. Okay, so quality of life is the very back wall. And then economic development is over here by the no smoking sign. Strengthening the city's infrastructure is up at the front by the fish. And then revitalizing downtown is over here on the wall. So that's kind of how we have it laid out tonight. I hope we have fun. It's a little bit different from the previous meeting.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, you defined this audience as being full-time residents, but a huge amount of our
Sure.
economy comes from our seasonal residents. When we look at the things we're looking at, should we be thinking what will make them happy too, or just what makes us happy?
You should be thinking about both. What makes a good city? That's really the perspective. So we're not defining the audience as full-time. We just don't have solid estimates for seasonal population yet. So we want to be sure that our seasonal estimates are correct before we put them out. So we have not forgotten about seasonal. It's a very important part of the city. So we really want you to kind of, the questions are geared toward, in the comprehensive plan is, what makes a good city? What makes a quality city? And what makes a city a place where you want to live is probably a place where people who are seasonal want to live too.
I'm just going to say that when you had the populations and you and I talked before, I think what the city is thinking now is that there's about 80,000 when you include the seasonal population. That's what number I hear from the city. That 47 might get up to about 80. So it's a pretty big difference. Just out of, it might not be exactly 80, but it's somewhere in that range, I think. Today.
Can I ask you a question regarding this survey?
Let me address that individually.
Okay.
Yes. Okay? One more question and let's get up and get moving.
How do these questions differ to what's in the survey?
They're broader. They're open for you to give lots of feedback that's beyond the survey. They're not duplicated.
And I just wanted to mention that we also have comment cards on the back that we're collecting. There are 8.5 of them.
Yes,
So if a question that you're on, you feel like you wanted to provide more feedback on, or you want us to have more information from you on that, please feel free to take those. We could collect them tonight, or you can take them back and put more thought into it, and you're welcome to submit it at City Hall to our city clerk. But you're welcome to take those with you as well. But if you feel like you need to provide more feedback, please feel free to use that as well.
And then the last thing is facilitators. Can you raise your hand? People who are staffing the event, thank you. They're going to be positioned around the room. They're really friendly. I know they look scary and that's why people aren't getting up, but they're really nice. So get up, talk to them. All right. Yes.